The DfE guidance of 2018 provides a very good definition of sexual harassment, and that is a good starting point. It describes harassment as being unwanted sexual conduct which violates a child's dignity, makes them feel intimidated, degraded, or humiliated. We must create a school environment in which pupils feel safe and comfortable to report and discuss matters of harassment. We need to significantly improve the delivery of RSE lessons, for which staff need proper training. And until that happens, and until staff are properly trained, RSE will remain largely ineffective and both unpopular and undervalued by staff and by pupils. RSE lessons must include showing clearly what is acceptable and not acceptable in a friendship or relationship, as well as being clear about the law. Whilst many have a vague idea of the notion of consent, few realise that the sending of an indecent image of a person under 18, even of themselves, is illegal. And to send it of another person without their consent could lead to the perpetrator being placed on the sex offender register. The fact that a great deal of sexting happens outside of school should not, if it impacts on the school, prevent action being taken. The statutory guidance on exclusions confirms that actions outside of school can be considered grounds for an exclusion, whilst the guidance also reminds heads that they must have regard for the interests of other pupils and staff at the school. Over 90% of girls and 70% of boys stated that sexual name-calling was common, whilst 88% of girls and 49% of boys said that sending explicit videos or pictures was also common. Perhaps most worrying is that 80% of girls and 40% of boys felt under pressure to send such pictures themselves. Indeed, some children argued that sexual harassment is so commonplace they saw no point in reporting it. Only 1.3% of permanent exclusions were for sexual misconduct, though of course the latter could mean that most harassment goes under the radar, not least because pupils are so often unwilling to report it for a host of reasons, for fear, embarrassment, guilt, and so on. The report quite rightly, therefore, advises schools to assume that sexual harassment goes on, even without specific concrete evidence. The report quite rightly identifies a continuum which starts with the one-off inappropriate comment through to incidents which are seen as problematic, as abusive or coercive, through to full sexual violence. And clearly there is an escalation of seriousness from the joke. We must teach respect for all. And we must teach that any actions that cause upset, humiliation, or intimidation, they are all bullying. They are wrong and they will not be tolerated. Sexual bullying is unacceptable, as is racial or homophobic bullying. But it is also wrong to bully someone because he or she is big or small, clever or not very clever, because of the colour of their hair, because they are small and weak, because they are disabled. Respect for all must be the answer and the goal.